Welcome to the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles, the podcast dedicated to the commercial food equipment repair industry. My name is Pat Finley. I'm a lead master certified technician at General Parts Group. My goal is to shine a light on what I believe to be one of the most interesting and rewarding industries a field service technician can work in. I love the work I do, and I'm glad you're here listening to this podcast. In this episode, we talk with Chad Melinger, executive chef, on what he expects from the office, technician, and service companies alike. What's up, everybody? Got a very special guest today. Rich and I are lucky to have Chad Melinger on. Chad is an executive chef. I don't know if that's the right title. He's a chef at a local university I do some work for. Hey, he's a pretty cool dude. We got a little bit of history together, and I'm glad to have him on. We're going to talk about what he expects as far as service from the office, technician, the service company, everything. So glad to have you on. Welcome on, Chad.
Thank you, sir.
So what's new, Rich? Anything?
Same old. I'm off the next few days. I took off today and tomorrow, trying to use up my PTO before my year rolls over. Our PTO doesn't roll over, so want to get these last couple days worth I got, used up. But same old. Trying to make customers happy, trying to fix stuff.
So you can't roll over any at all, or a certain amount you got to be under?
None at all. None of it rolls over. Not sick time, not vacation time, nothing.
So we work for the same parent company, but it's like each individual company and each individual branch has their own little rules. So
their own policies. Yeah,
we're allowed to roll so many hours, but we don't get sick time. We just get vacation time. So enough about that. So Chad, you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how long you've been a chef and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So again, I've been doing this for a long time. Started working in kitchens as a dishwasher when I was 14. So 24 years working in kitchens now. Been an executive chef for about almost 14 years. Had a little bit of some sous chef time prior to that. I've worked, born and raised in Chicago, live in Indianapolis now or outside of it. Worked kind of all over Chicago, worked in Europe for a little while, and then got out of restaurants, and now I work in higher education food service for an upper echelon company. And I've been working with general repair and maintenance companies the entire time because, unfortunately, equipment needs general repair and maintenance every single day. It seems like. So,
I think you mean fortunately. Depends what side of the aisle you're on, but I say fortunately.
Fortunately, maybe for this crowd. Unfortunately for us, but it's always good when we have a really great relationship with General Parts, and we are a fairly large customer, so I see a General Parts truck almost every single day.
Yeah. Chad's a really cool dude. It was kind of weird how we started doing some work together. I worked with him at a former university he was at, and he had a piece of equipment, and it was fairly new. They had several other people out there. They couldn't get it fixed, and I went out there and found some issues, and I went to bat for him and really made sure that he got taken care of. I went back and forth with the service manager for the area for that company, and eventually got everything covered. I never heard back. Everything's rock and rolling, good to go. And then like a year later, I walk into this new place. I'm like, man, what are we doing in here? I've never done any work in here. I worked for General Parts for like 9 years at this point. And all of a sudden I walk in and see Chad, and he's like, hey, I was sick of using the old guys, and I wanted you because, you took care of me at the other place, and it's been a pretty good relationship. So we say, it comes down to taking care of your customers, man. If you really have some integrity and you do what's right for the customer, it leads to some really good relationships.
Yeah, I would say, a little bit more about that story is, because you got brought in by the company that manufactured the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So General Parts wasn't even our vendor at the time. And just you were a straight shooter. GP got it done quick for us. I remember transferring over to the unit I'm at now, and we were having a rough time. I feel like we got taken advantage of, like a lot of Band-Aid fixes, as opposed to telling us what the real problem was. And it was just actually what I did was I Googled. I couldn't remember the name of the company he worked for, and I was like, I Googled it, like general repair and maintenance companies, and as soon as I saw General Parts, I was like, oh yeah, I remember those. I remember that's where that guy worked. And I think we called. I was like, hey, do you guys take a credit card? Because you're actually not even a preferred vendor for our company. And they're like, Sure, we can take a credit card, and I worked with almost every single one of the technicians there. I see them driving their trucks on the street and can wave to them. I think we have a really great relationship. I think that it definitely goes to show it's not just the techs. I mean, I only work with one lady in the office. Kelly's amazing, and then I've worked with all kinds of people from the company. So Steve Butler has always been really good for us. Tim and Matt. I mean, the Indianapolis office is phenomenal. I can't speak much better about a company when it comes to us having to throw money at stuff than GP, because you guys tell us, like, don't put any more money into that, just fix it. And our last company didn't do that. They were like, oh yeah, I can get it up and running for you, and then we see them the next week for an issue with the same piece of equipment. So my personal opinion, especially when it comes to this stuff, I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, for certain things. Honesty goes a long way, and I mean that's all I ever asked for from a partner. So kudos to everybody I work with now, for sure.
Yeah, it's been a great relationship, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie, you're our number one non-warranty customer, and if something needs taken care of at Butler, we take care of it. Whether I go out on Saturday or late at night and fix it. I mean, it's that relationship we have with you guys. You guys, it's we get pushback, but it's the normal pushback we get from anybody else. It's why is it taking this, or nothing out of the line. It's just normal customer relationship stuff, and it gets taken care of. But it's been a lot of fun there. We've done a lot of cool projects. From moving that cooler, disassembling that cooler, to pouring the concrete pad, to building it outside, putting that in. Unfortunately, stripping out all those units in the basement. We had some units that were installed that really shouldn't have been installed in this area, and they just kept eating compressors. They were overheating. I measured discharge temperature of 280 degrees. That's measured temperature. 330, 340 degrees inside that compressor. And it was just compressors left and right. And we put one in there, and then 2 months later, it was already screaming. But we've done a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of it's a historical facility, so there's a lot of cool stuff. We get to work in a really cool field house, and you see all the basketball players in there. We were in there during COVID when they were building a court for the tournament that came to Indianapolis, and they were building a court. They wouldn't let no one take pictures, but we were like, I was down there sneaking my head around the curtains trying to see what the court looked like, and it's been a really cool place to work at, man. Everyone's really cool. No one gives you a hard time. Even everybody, the cooks, the wait staff, the servers, everybody's always happy, go lucky. They're nice. They're appreciative. Hey, you want something to drink? You need something to eat? It's a really great relationship to have. So I appreciate Chad and his crew for sure.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely some fun stories from some of those open air units. Some stuff I think I've never even seen. I mean, we had to get engineering involved, and I think, God, Pat, I don't even know how many times you guys were out there, and then ripping them out and dismantling them was probably the best thing that you guys could have done to it. Just scrap it and get some new units to put in there.
Yeah, we that was definitely weird. That was a lot. Those things were heavy. They were all bolted together. It was a lot of work to do it, but it was kind of fun. I like doing different kind of stuff, and you never know what I'm gonna get into in there. Between working on. Well, we'll start it all there at your location now. Is that dish machine? You're having issues with final rinse. The manufacturer had come out, couldn't figure it out, and I came out there and I just pulled the booster heater apart, the internal booster heater, and was like, it's running on 2 out of 16 elements. Yeah, it's not going to keep up. It's not going to make hot water. And I was able to source the element the next day and get them back up and operational, and that's just kind of how it grew into us. What we have now. It's just, I mean, you just got to take care of it. I mean, it's not that hard of a job. I mean, for some it's harder than others, yeah, but you just got to be there for your customer and listen to them.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I think I still have that element. I think I kept it because I think I actually tell people, because we replaced that dishwasher.
Yeah.
$90,000 brand new dishwasher we put in, but I mean, you guys got us along for 2 years on that after we found that bad element. I've never seen anything like it, and I kind of use that as my reminder as to why I don't want that other repair company anymore. It's like, I looked at the quantity of money that we spent to limp along on that thing just to say, I mean, we had health department come in. They were going to shut us down. Because of that, it went down, of course, the day that they came in, and you guys were out there relatively quick. They let us pass on. We just went to disposables, so we didn't have to worry about washing dishes. And the next day, it was fixed. By the time they came back out, we were operating at, geez, like way above what we needed to be operating at. We were at like 190 degrees, 190 degrees on fine orins, and they were happy with it. And then, I think from that point we just kept going. We had a couple other issues with some. I got this dang fly that will not leave me alone. We just had a couple other issues, small issues that the old company had. I think we're free of all their work now, and we're good to go.
Yeah, it's we've had a lot of fun stuff there. I like it there. Between fighting the asbestos in the old building and sending Corbin up in a little bitty hole to fix some lines and stuff. It's you never know what you're gonna run into there. It's a really cool facility. I like it. I mean, some of the stuff's old and weird places, but it works out pretty good. So we want to talk about what you expect from service companies. So say you call General Parts tomorrow morning and you've got your dish machine's acting up. What do you expect? You tell the customer, Kelly, like, hey, my dish machine's down. I have 1,200, 1,500 kids coming through tomorrow. I got to have this thing up and running. Do you explain to her the urgency or what is behind your logic of thinking we need to get out there as soon as we can, or do you just say, hey, dish machine's down?
So I think that there's a couple things that go into it. It definitely depends on time of the year, right? I mean, especially in education facility, right? Okay, we're certain days it's like we're feeding 150 people. Like, don't take somebody off of somebody else's job and rush them over here because a reach-in cooler that we can just empty and throw all of our stuff into another cooler is down. Like, so I always have that conversation, especially with Kelly. I'm like, hey, this is the unit. First and foremost, GP tags on all the equipment is like a lifesaver. Instead of having to try and get a serial number and a make and a model on everything, just being able to say, hey, it's unit 479833, which is actually the unit I called this morning on. I don't know why I remember that, but it did. But yeah, so I just say, hey, this is the GP tag number. She can pull it up, and she's like, oh, it's such and such. This is where it's located. Is that a high traffic area? Can we come in at any time? I mean, Kelly's amazing. Don't get me wrong, Tim's great when I have to call and talk to him and everything, but it's like I can always tell when Kelly's on vacation because that's her main focus, and somebody else is picking it up. And I call, and it rings and rings and rings before the system transfers it to whoever's taking the call. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, Kelly just kind of she gets to the point. She's like, when do you want us there? Basically, like, is this a 911? And I think part of that is our relationship over time. We've just especially if I tell her what unit it is, because we have 11 units on campus that you guys service. And so if I tell her it's one of the small ones, typically she's like, okay, someone will be out tomorrow, the next day. If it's our big, facility where we have, 1,000 plus, 1,000, 1,500, students coming through it to eat regularly, she's like, okay, what's the latest I can get there? She automatically asks, especially if it's on like a late Friday or sometime on the weekend, she automatically is like, okay, do you want to approve the overtime? Is it something that, that we can help with? Sometimes if I'm talking to Tim, it's like, hey, have you even checked this out? Especially because there's been a couple of times where I've had operators call and I don't know about it. And you guys come out and plug in a reach-in cooler for us because it wasn't working because somebody didn't check to make sure it was plugged in. And so, yeah, she just kind of runs down it the best way I think I've probably ever used a general repair and maintenance company, because a lot of the bigger ones, it's like, just put a ticket in online. Here's my name. Here's my phone number. Here's the piece of equipment. And then you wait to hear from somebody and you don't know when the tech's going to come out. Generally, I get a time frame. It's like, okay, somebody will be there today. Can somebody come out tomorrow? If it's on a Friday, do you want to wait till Monday? So my expectation is honesty. And I have that relationship and rapport. And I think my operators do as well. And they have the opportunity to, make those phone calls now. They understand the process, and General Parts understands the process. Once it hits the threshold of a dollar amount, like, I have to be contacted. It's just my expectation is met. So, but my expectation's high. I mean, I know that. And it took us a little while to kind of mend that, because we pay quite a bit for service charges and having everybody drive out, which I think is great. You guys all have your own trucks, and it's not like you guys are waiting on trucks to get back to a depot to come back out, and you guys have your own tools and you source parts really quickly. So I mean, the expectation's high, but you guys meet it.
So let me ask you this then, because what I'm hearing, and I don't know if I'm just filtering it through my own lens of what's important to me, because I like to analyze every aspect of the companies I work for. For you, as far as the office goes, it's important for the office to care just as much as the technician should care. It shouldn't. You don't want them to just be, okay, we're going to throw you on the schedule. We'll get to you when we can. You want to feel that they actually care about the need that you have, and you're not, just another number or another call on their board.
Yeah, I almost think it's more important for them to care. Like technicians, I want my technicians to care about the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
I got a great relationship with some of them. Pat comes in, we can talk deer hunting, we can talk all kinds of stuff, whatever the case may be. A couple other guys are like that. Some of the guys, they come in, they care a lot about the equipment. They tell me all about it, which is great. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's what they're there to do, is take care of the equipment, shake my hand, say thank you, and walk out the door. Right. So personable is more important for me from the office. Like I want to know, for instance, I said earlier, like we pay on a credit card, right? Because that's the way that we can pay timely and make sure that we're getting all of our invoices taken care of, right? Instead of paying them through an AP system where it takes 90 days to get you guys paid, like we're making sure we're on top of our bills, blah 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 blah, right? But I pay on a credit card, so we put in a $75,000 cooler that the team built from the ground up, and I don't have a $75,000 credit limit. So for me, it's like they're honest. They're like, all right, how are we going to break this down part by part? Do you want to pay for the pad first? Because we had what is that, like a 48-inch pad?
Dude, it's so we knocked out a whole section of dock height, like because they had like a 3-row dock. We knocked out a whole semi width section dock height, and it actually gets taller than dock height out towards the end. And we brought in concrete, built walls, filled it in. It's a pretty big structure of concrete out there. So it's at least 4 foot tall.
So they're like, okay, that's X amount of dollars. Do you want to pay for that? Do you want to pay for this? Broke it down for us, and it was like constant communication, whether it was email. Everybody's got my cell phone number. They can text me. They can call me. But I think, Rich, to answer your question, like for me, the relationship with the office is more important because it's the first line, right? Like if I call them and I'm like, hey, this is what I need, and I remember the first time I talked to Kelly, she's like, where are you? She's like, and help me understand this. Like, she's like, she had it on Google Maps pulled up. She's like, you have like 12 buildings. Which one are you talking about? Walk me through it. How can my technicians find it so that when they get there, they're able to help you instead of trying to find out their way. So for me, the office is not just my first point of contact, but it's my most important relationship.
That's good to hear. Kelly's gonna love to hear this. She's gonna be asking for a raise after this conversation. She does a really good job, man. She gets it pretty rough. She gets it from the customers, and not all the customers are always happy to talk to her. They call when something's broke generally, and it's never really the best situation. And then the technicians, she gets it from us. Some days we're, complete buttheads to her, and some days there's guys that just try to get out of jobs, and she's got to try to delegate all that, and she's got to try to play therapist and everything else. So she's got a pretty rough job, actually. I asked her one day, I was like, you go home and drink because of me? And she goes, no, you're not that bad. I was like, okay.
I definitely think a lot of people that work in the offices don't understand, how critical it is to have that relationship with the customers, especially like you said, it's the first point of contact. And really from the way they answer the phone, especially if you're a new customer, you've been dealing with them for so long, you might let certain things go, especially if it's not the person you're normally dealing with. But if you got a person that's calling up for the first time and you're answering the phone with an attitude, I mean, that can literally make the thing go south before it even starts. So, I think a lot of people in the office don't understand how critical it is to be able to have good people skills and build relationships with the people that are calling in. So,
yeah, and sometimes it's not even just the people that you call and talk to regularly. Like, I've had to deal with billing, you know, and they're like, hey, you know, what about this? What about this? This is an outstanding quote. Do you still want this quote to be out, you know, open? Or, you know, and I'll at first it was like I was calling or processing my credit card like every single time, and it was like, okay, yeah, you know, and Pat can attest to it. At first, when we first took over from another company, the equipment was just I mean, they hadn't done any preventative maintenance on it. They had, you know, when they were using it, they weren't taking care of it, all that stuff. So we inherited that, and we were trying to get it back up and running. And I mean, we must have had every GP technician out there on campus somewhere. I mean, there would be 4 trucks out there, you know, a day. And yeah, I missed paying an invoice, like not intentionally. I mean, if I paid the $12,000 one and the $3,000 one, I certainly didn't skip the $600 one on purpose.
Right.
And I've worked with companies where the billing department calls you and they're like, hey, you know, blah, blah, blah. They're putting a hammer down. I'm like, what the heck? And,
Right.
you know, I don't have that issue with GP either. And a lot of times they'll just say, you know, next time they send an invoice, they'll say, here's an invoice and this one's still open, as opposed to hounding and hounding and hounding. And now I'm at a point where I've actually authorized them to charge me. I'm like, you know, you guys, we have a relationship. I trust you. And if push comes to shove, I just pick up the phone. I'm like, hey, really quick, run me down this invoice. You know, like, why did I pay this trip charge if they were already out? And then it's like, cool, you know, here's your 99 or 109 or whatever dollar, however much we're paying, you know, for a service charge here. You know, here it is back. And, you know, it's just it's understanding. I mean, you know, to your point, Pat, it's a bear, you know. I mean, when we're calling you guys, like fryers down in the middle of service, like, first of all, I don't have time to tell you about why. I don't know why. That's why I'm calling you, right? So, and a lot of that interaction is, you know, again, like, yeah, Kelly's playing therapist. She's trying to get to the root of the problem. The person on the phone's like, how can I get you service as quick as possible?
Yep.
And yeah, it can't be fun. Especially, I know how I've been a chef a long time. I can't. I'm in a different space in my capability at this point, but in my past life, I know I could have been pretty hard on some of my, not just my technicians, but my my poor people on the other end of the phone.
There's been some times I was scared to come in there when we first started doing some work in there. I was a little scared to come in there sometimes. So we've, you know, it's been a great relationship though. And what's wild about your place, it's so big and there's so many people there. And it's like, you know, Kelly, like, oh, Chef Patrick called it in. I'm like, who's that? I was like, I've never heard that name before. And I go in and meet this guy. And, you know, and I made friends with a lot of your people that work there. You know, I'm friends with Nate. He's a cool dude. I see he's back at your former place now, I think.
Yep.
So I'm glad to see he's back within the organization. He's a really good guy, man. I liked him. Always super nice, super helpful. You know, all your people are that way. If I have a question, I try to find out who called it in. If it's not you, you know, I try to find out the person it is. And, hey, you know, where's this at? Well, it's, you know, this person does catering, so, you know, it's kind of in that area, and go from there. But there's a lot of cool people there. It's been a cool place to work at for sure.
Yeah, I know it can't be easy for you guys. We have 21 managers that have the ability, that have been given access to call you all. So, yeah, it's a good relationship, and you know, I think it models a lot of things outside of just our industry, where people should be able to take advantage of understanding that, you know, customer service is it's number one. Like, if you're not treating your customers right, good luck. Good luck staying afloat.
So the guys that watch the live stream, they always have to ask this question. And I've seen a lot of chefs wear these, so I'm going to go ahead and put this on the screen. But they want to know if you wear Crocs. He's got them on.
That's what I'm talking about.
Dude, chefs are always wearing Crocs. I don't get it, but hey, whatever. I got to wear this, man.
So I don't wear Crocs in the kitchen, but you know, I have 2 young kids. The Crocs are like a big deal right now. Like, every kid in my neighborhood wears freaking Crocs. I actually am like, what the heck's the deal with Crocs? And these are actually, they're camouflage Crocs that my oldest daughter, who went hunting with me for the first time last year, she saw them and she brought them home from I think Walmart or somewhere with my wife. And
that's great.
Like, so this is actually my first pair of Crocs. But yes, I know a lot of us wear them. That's for sure.
That's funny. No, they always ask if someone wears Crocs, and then they always ask if they're a vegan or carnivore. And I can see Chad's eating meat. I see some of the dairy, so I'm positive he likes to eat meat. So, so when a technician comes out there, what do you want from them? Do you not want them to bother you? Do you want them to go say, let's just pick on Patrick here. I like Patrick. He's nice. He's a cool dude. So Chef Patrick calls it in, Sous Chef Patrick. Do you want the technician to find Patrick, or do you want the technician to come find you or Joe, or who do you want us to find?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question because it's something that I've actually addressed, and ultimately I want the technician to find who called it in.
Okay.
I want the technician to have an open rapport with those people. I want them to be able to say, "Hey, what's the piece of equipment? What's the problem?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though they called it in, and maybe it's because of how frequently we have issues with equipment, where I want to make sure, like, and it's happened to us before, right? Like, oh, the steamer leaks. This actually happened recently, and we have 2 steamers in one kitchen, and then outside on the service line we have 2 steamers.
Yep.
And they actually they came in and they serviced the wrong steamer.
It was my son.
And
it was my son, wasn't it?
It was. you called him out, not me.
Right.
But
Chad was trying to be nice.
The flip side of it is that piece of machinery needed service.
Yep. It did have a water leak. Yep.
So it was like, okay. So I was like, hey, by the way, since you're here working on that one, the one you're supposed to be working on is over there. So I was like, do you need me to call in and put in another ticket? And he was like, no, I messed up. I'll take care of putting the ticket in. And I didn't even know anything about it. I didn't call it in. But it got brought to my attention, obviously. So, but yeah, it's like, double check what piece of equipment it is. Double check and make sure we have an understanding of what the issue is. At least the surface issue. A lot of times it's like, hey, this is what's going on. And then, a technician's like, yeah, well, it's caused by the fact that this is failing, right? It's like, oh, okay. So that's the third and probably the most important thing. And it helps us down the road understand equipment as just the grunts that are beating the shit out of them every day is like, hey, what is your diagnosis and what does it mean, right? Like, so a thermocouple is bad. Okay, what is a thermocouple? What does it do? Why is that affecting my fryer? And how long until it's fixed, right? That's the fourth thing. Like, what's our ballpark? And I don't ever hold a technician to it because I know that there's things outside of there. But it's like, oh, it shouldn't be too long, or oh, it's gonna take a long time. Like, those are the 2 answers where I'm like give me a number. Aim high. I'm fine with aiming high, but like a week, a day. Right. Especially coming out of COVID, I mean, that was brutal. 6, 8, 12, 22 weeks. I think we waited for a kitchen disposer. 22 weeks.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Nothing from your guys' end, nothing from the technician's end, but the technician was honest with me. Like, you're looking at 20 to 26 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, but that's really what it is. And then the last thing and the most important thing, in my opinion, is letting us know that you're there when you get there and you're leaving when you leave. And that's mostly so that we have an understanding of if the piece of equipment was worked on, and it's just a safety thing for us, right? Like, God forbid there's a fire. Like, is there a GP technician in the building somewhere that we're missing? Especially in a place like ours, maybe smaller restaurants, not so much, but our building's 60,000 square feet. It's like making sure we know that everyone's in and out, because we care about you guys and we want to make sure that if something happens to the building that we have you accounted for.
Yeah, we can get lost in some of those buildings, especially at Fieldhouse. You got concession stands and stuff tucked away in closets and stuff. You can get lost over there pretty easily. So,
and I'm glad you just said all that stuff, because you kind of answered the next question I was going to ask was, how important is communication, especially explaining, what they found on the unit, the ETA on parts and all that good stuff, because that's something I try to stress to technicians, is just clear communication. And, for me, explaining stuff as simple as possible, because I could go into a technical, explanation that most people aren't going to understand. But if I say, hey, your thermocouple failed and that's stopping your pilot from staying lit and your valve from opening, that's why your fryer is not working. to me, that's basically what you need to know. But I've seen technicians that will either try to show off like how much they know, and they'll go into this long drawn out technical explanation that you're like, yeah, dude, whatever. Or the other thing is they won't tell you anything, and sometimes even like you said, just leave without even checking out, or come in without checking in, making sure it's an okay time for them to work on certain pieces and different things like that. So I'm glad you said all that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand, like, I think I've probably done it to you, Pat. Like, what are you doing right now? Like I walk up like, why are you staring at that ice machine? Like, it's broken.
Yeah.
Did you fix it or not? It's like understanding, like, well, watching it go through its cycle. I'm making sure it's making ice. I'm making sure it's it's got this many stages. This is why it happens. Whatever the case may be. Because I'll be like, I'm paying that guy way too much money to stare at that ice machine.
Stare
Like,
at my phone.
what is he doing? But
I have all this stuff on my phone, like the Bluetooth probes and stuff. So like I don't have to stare at gauges. It's on my phone, and like a lot of times people think I'm just staring at my phone. I'm like, no, I'm not staring at my phone. I'm actually like doing some work. So yeah, that's fine. I got a couple of questions here. Quentin says, from your perspective, what is the best way for us as service companies to sell an end user on planned maintenance? It seems like pulling teeth to make them see the benefits.
it's a good question. The best way for me that we've gone about it is so I guess I don't know. It depends on the company you use and how you're going to sell it. But so like GP for us, they have a portal, and it shows you like the life of the piece of equipment, how much you've spent on it. So when we were looking at having planned maintenance on certain pieces of equipment, it was like, hey, look at what your repairs are. I can't tell you how many times it's been, your coils are dirty. Like, all you had to do was clean the coils, and we're too busy to clean the coils, right? Yeah. Pat's laughing because he's probably cleaned every coil on a piece of equipment.
I just went through this with Robert like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So it's like, we're too busy for that. So it's like, what does that look like? And explaining, like, do you have time to do it? Do you have the right chemical to do it? Do you, and just being upfront. So the guy that we dealt with was Steve Butler, and he's a really great dude. And he was the one who was like, look at, this is what you get. This is how you do it. This is the pieces of equipment. And then just being honest. Like, so we specifically asked for planned maintenance for water fed equipment. So he's like, here's all your water fed equipment. Let's knock off the ones you don't want us to do. Right. And so, again, I think communication is the key for everything. And some people aren't going to want to do it because it sounds expensive. So I think putting into perspective the cost of repair versus the cost of preventative maintenance, it's like, are you going to wait for your car to break down, or are you going to change your oil every, however often?
Sweet. That's a good point. So yeah, we used to do more PMs. It seems like it comes and goes in spurts. I'm not opposed to it. We had an episode a couple months ago about PMs, and I used to think of it as like, I'm too good to do PM. I shouldn't do a PM. And then I did one this week with Jake. We went out and did a PM, and I was like, I kind of miss this. It's like, you're not rushed. You're trying to make sure you catch something before it becomes an issue. I was showing Jake the ways, and we got to talk to some drunk homeless guy at 9 a.m. It was kind of funny. But yeah, it's been an eye opener, talking with Rich and Jason and Dusty about some of the PM stuff. I was like, man, a lot of times we do a PM, we rush through it, and we're not really doing the customer a good service. We need to take our time and do a better job with it. So, when the PM opportunity comes up, I do try to take it on to make sure that the other guys are doing a better job. So PMs are important, though. I mean, people are like, oh, it's just busy work. Well, no, it's not busy work to your customer, because they're paying a lot of money for you to come out and clean coils or descale an ice machine or sanitize an ice machine or a steamer. So, you got to do a better job for your customer, and it gives you a chance to get in the door and to find issues before they become big issues.
And I'm gonna throw this out there, and this is gonna probably piss some people off, but for the listening and viewing audience, if you're too good to do a PM, then you're not good enough to be a tech. And that's not a shot at you, Pat, but in general, I mean, I'm like, I don't care what it is. It's all a service. Cleaning a condenser is no different a service than changing a compressor. You know what I mean? It's all what we do to keep equipment running and to stop it from breaking down. And honestly, in a sense, cleaning that condenser is better for the customer, because if you clean that condenser, you do it properly, you do it thoroughly. You check your capacitors, contactors, all that good stuff during the PM. Then you might be able to you will be able, if you're doing it properly, to prolong the life of those major components in that system. So yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people get that mindset of, I'm a technician, I've been doing this for 25 years, I'm not cleaning condensers. Now, if I go to a walk-in freezer, for example, and that condenser is dirty, even if that's not the main issue, I'm still cleaning that condenser while I'm there, because why am I gonna change the contactor and then we got to come back 2 weeks and clean the condenser because now it's tripping out when I'm already there, on site. So
I just went to that a month ago at Chad's place. They had a freezer, and randomly some days it'd be like 25 and it'd hang around like 15 degrees. Well, the condenser sits on a dock and it had a bunch of crap stuck in it. So I busted out the hose. I went ahead and cleaned it and the cooler one next to it, and that wasn't the issue. It was running fine. It was shutting off at like 15 degrees. It was set for like -4, and it was literally shutting off at 15 degrees. And it's a digital thermostat. I'm like, well, it's got a bad thermostat. Changed thermostat, everything worked. But, I didn't want to take a chance of just changing that thermostat and leaving that coil dirty, because guess what?
right.
2 weeks later, it got stupid hot and it could have went down. And then I got Chad, well, you were just here. You changed thermostat. Why didn't you check that? So, I mean, do your customers a service and make sure they're taken care of.
Yep. And Chad, let me ask you this question. At what point, I guess, repair costs versus replacement costs, do you want a technician to say, hey, it's not even worth repairing? I recommend that you guys just go ahead and replace it. Do you have like a threshold that, 50%, 80% repair versus replace?
Yeah, 50% is normally when we say we want to know about it, right? Like, right now we have a char grill, right, in a unit that is going to go under construction next year, and it's a $15 million remodel that we're doing. We're getting all new equipment, so it's like, do we band-aid that, or do we just know that we don't have to spend, $4,000 next year now, right? And it's like, well, it's like $300. All right, well, for $300, just fix it, right?
Right.
But if they were like, it's $2,600 or $4,000 for a new one, I'm going to go, okay, this is a conversation. Obviously, when it comes to replacing equipment, especially in a business like ours, where our clients' money is what we put forward, that's the best way for me to go to the client and be like, look, our client's a financial guy. Hey, this is $4,000, $2,600 to fix it. In almost every time, it's okay. Let's get it. Let's go ahead and spend the extra money now, knowing that you can't have that go down when you're trying to serve 4,000 people a day, right? So our threshold is 50%, 50% to understand, and then moving forward, we make the decision. So if we get to like 60 to 70%, it's almost always going to be a replace. 50% is when we start to say, okay, let us know that we're at 50% so that we can make a decision on what the best course of action is for us moving forward.
Unless it's a $90,000 dish machine, it takes a year and a half to come in.
Unless it's a $90,000, and then they bring it in, and the manufacturer made it backwards. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, they pulled their, like, I think it's a 64 or 66 dish machine out, dude. They put the new one in, it was running backwards, and they had to put the old one back in.
Nice. Let me ask you this other question, because this is something that I see a lot of technicians, I believe they fall short on. Let's say I come out to your place and I diagnose, say, a bad element, right? But if I'm looking at it, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? This contactor's in line with the element. It's old. We should probably replace that too. And you know what? Maybe this power switch. I'm just, making stuff up off the top of my head. Do you appreciate more getting the whole picture of, hey, this is the bad part, but these parts are associated with it, and we might as well do it all in one shot because it's a little more money now, but it's going to save you money up front? Or do you prefer, hey, this is the bad part, let's just replace this and move on?
No, I want the whole scope.
Okay.
Pat will tell you. I mean, it's like when Pat comes in and is like, this is what's wrong. It's like, okay, is that everything? Like,
right.
If we do that work, is that going to get us back to status quo? Right. And if the answer is, well, I would also change this, he'll tell you. I mean, almost every time I'm like, then just change it. First of all, it costs too much money for fuel charges and trip charges and service charges and we're in Indianapolis, so it's a zone charge, and I don't have an issue with any of those charges, but I don't want to pay him 4 times if I
Right.
can pay him once. In the long run, I'm saving money by spending money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's what I try to tell a lot of technicians is like, I'd rather come to you and say, look, it's an extra $100 and 20 minutes now, or it's a full-on service call, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from
Yep.
now. That's the approach that I always like to take, and I like to try to get a lot of other technicians to take that same approach.
Give them the option. Give them the option.
I think it's harder pill for certain people to swallow. Like when I was operating my own business, it's like, okay, that's pocket money, right?
Right.
Now where I look at it and I'm more cognizant of it because it's not my money, and I'm going, okay, what can I do to make sure that down the road I don't have to pay this again? I guess it's different because I'm grabbing from the lump sum and paying for it instead of pulling out of my pocket and saying, okay, hopefully this works out in the long run. So
Right.
It's kind of twofold. I don't want to waste somebody else's money, but I'm also saving them money in the long run.
Right.
Yeah. It's you're kind of in a weird position now. You're like a middleman. So, you guys, so much you get to spend on repairs and so much on replacement and stuff. It's kind of a weird situation to be in. So you're really, you're looking after your bottom line, but you're also looking after your client's bottom line. So it's kind of a weird place. I mean, I've had to meet engineers down there in that basement for those stupid units. I'm like, like, oh, these things should run fine. I'm like, you try to explain it to them, and they're like, no, they don't want to hear it. And it's so weird, man. It's cool. You get to do what you get to do, but I can see it being a total pain in the ass too. So,
I agree with Quentin on that one.
So Quentin says that's okay when an honest tech is servicing equipment. The bad is when you get a parts changer just bumping their end of year bonus for parts sales too. Luckily, we don't get bonuses as general parts. Luckily for Chad,
Yeah,
luckily for
we don't either.
We don't get a bonus program. I'm not in a normal technician's place, so like they tell us, we do our yearly reviews, like your sales and everything, but it's not really like it doesn't affect you. They don't beat you up over it, so we kind of take that parts sales mentality thing out of it. I make the company enough money not selling parts I don't need to sell to, so I'd rather just come in and fix the stuff and have Chad to be happy to call me back versus come in and sell Chad 10 parts he didn't need and he never calls me again.
And that's my philosophy, and I like stuff to be fixed right. And my thing is, I'd rather fix your piece and then you don't call me back on that piece for a whole year, and when you're calling me on the next thing, you're like, dude, you worked on that thing and it's been 5 months already, we've had no issues, and that's why you're calling me back. That's how I make money for the company I work for, is by doing stuff right and gaining your trust.
Yeah, I mean, I think one example I have of it is because I can't buy equipment from GP, but they're still honest about it, right? They know I'm never going to buy a piece of equipment from you. You're my my repair guy. Like, come on in, fix all my equipment, absolutely. But I can't buy. Like, that's my company's policy. We buy from a contracted company, right? So Pat comes in and tells me, I got a fryer that is leaking from the
Tube burner, yeah.
He's like, buy a new one, man. He's like,
Yeah.
don't mess with it.
Yep.
Okay. So I buy a new one. I go to my company, I buy a new one, install it. He comes in, sees it. Oh, you got a new fryer. Yep. Just honesty. Like,
yeah,
just you can't fix it.
So when I first started this, I did a lot of McDonald's work and a lot of school work. And back in the day, the McDonald's fryer, the high limit, the way it was positioned, when they clean the elements, they lift them up and they break the wire off the high limits. It just break just because it raises and lowers since I cleaned it. And I'd never change that high limit. I'd go in there and put a new terminal wire on that end every single time, just put it back on there and get them by. And I had a guy's like, oh, you need some high limit. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with the high limit. It's the wire. Oh, no, you need to sell them a high limit. I'm like, selling them a high limit because it's a shitty wire. I'm like, no, that's not how I work. I fix what's broke. I'm not trying to sell them a high limit. I mean, I don't want to change the high limit. I don't want to change the compressor if I don't have to. It's like I do everything in my power to get out doing more work. Guess what? It leads me to actually fixing the right thing instead of doing the harder job, and it's more work because it's easier for them to guess. I mean, I don't get it. We got going on over here. So no good tech likes a callback. No, dude, I hate callbacks, man. That's my biggest saying. I take pride in not having a call back. And if I get a call back, I want to know about it. I don't let the office give it to somebody else. If I screw up, give it back to me. I want to own it. So, what else you got for us tonight, Chad? Anything? Any words of wisdom we should be sharing with Tex here about dealing with your customers?
I mean, no, I mean, honestly, I think I've said most of it. I mean, again, and I can't reiterate enough, just finding somebody, and I know that you guys are busy. I know you guys are short staffed, just like the rest of the world and every other industry.
Mm-hmm.
And, getting people in and training them. And that was a fun conversation. Like, why am I paying for two guys to be here? Because you're training one of them. I had to question that, but I wasn't paying for it. He was there free of charge to learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's about open communication, being honest with people, and then when you can save them a couple bucks by being truthful, to Rich's question and just saying, hey, this and this are wrong. I can fix this and it'll get up and running, but these two other things are going to fail, and I'm going to be back out here. And I think in my time, that's probably been the thing that's been hardest for me to cope with is saying, okay, fine, go ahead and let's spend the extra money and fix it now. But it's also been one of the most beneficial things that I've learned because, again, right, I'm not calling people back out for the same piece of equipment time and time again for an issue that could have been fixed, with one stop. So my golden sage rule is just communicate. Us communicate with the company with what we need and be honest about it, and then just having you guys come out and put your best foot forward and go from there.
Sweet, yeah. It's been a fun couple of years out there with you, and I look forward to what even more in the future. It's gonna suck. You're remodeling 2 kitchens, and my workload's gonna be cut by like a tenth, in it by 90%. But we'll still be there for you whenever you need. I'm sure you got some people to tear some stuff up for me.
Oh yeah, not just that, but that's kind of going back to the planned maintenance, like our PMs. So that's since we're having all new equipment now, our PM schedule is going to grow. So
Yeah.
you can fine tune your preventative maintenance over with us.
Yeah, I like coming out there, man. It like I said, everyone's always nice for the most part. Occasionally, you get someone in a bad mood. It happens. I mean, I don't take it personal. I mean, I'm in a bad mood days, and Kelly doesn't take it personal to me, so I can't take it personal to anybody else. So it was great having you on, man. I appreciate you explaining your side of it, what you expect from guys like me in the office and stuff. Hope a lot of people get some good takeaways from this. It's not always you don't always get to see a customer come on and give their side of it. So I appreciate you spending some time with us.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't get somebody who wasn't very happy. And the people I've talked to that deal with GP. I mean, I'm sure there's been people out there that are like throw their hands up and walk away, but the most of the time when somebody's asking me who do I use, I forward them GP's contact information because you get what you pay for, and I think we get really good service, and I don't think that we overpay, and I think it's kind of cool to be able to have a one-on-one, face-to-face conversation with almost every single guy that walks in. The technicians are always super personable. So
we got to get that Corbin kid to talk more, though, man. He's kind of quiet.
he is quiet considering who his dad is. I don't really understand that one.
Man, I'll tell a story real quick before we leave. So, like, I've worked at GP for 12 and a half years now, and, like, I spent the last 11 and a half years telling stories about how crazy this kid is. I mean, because he was, like, super imagination. He'd do wild stuff. I mean, and I was telling all these crazy stories, and he comes to work for us, and, like, he doesn't say 2 words. He like half time, if he doesn't have to come up front, he's not coming up front. He's just grabbing his shit and leaving. Like he's the quietest person in the world. I'm like, man, everybody thinks I'm a liar now because of you, dude. So, all right. Well, we'll keep you any longer. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm sure I'll see you in the next couple of days.
Yeah, man, appreciate you coming on for sure.
I'm sure you will, Rich. It was a pleasure.
Same
enjoy
here, boss.
Enjoy your last couple of days of vacation and,
yes, sir.
and work and nice weather out there in South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
All right, y'all. Appreciate you.
Yep. Bye. If you guys would, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the podcast. It really helps us grow and helps us know which direction to move in. Also, if you have any suggestions for guests, please email me at commercialkitchenchronicles@gmail.com. Or if you want to be a guest, email me. Love to have you guys on. Thanks a lot. See you next week.